Hello, this is Felix from howtopracticedrawing.com, and in this video I'm going to show you a little workout that you can do at home to improve how you can draw the eyes in a portrait. So if you've followed the Instagram or YouTube channel or the blog of How to Practice Drawing, you know that I'm really big on master studies. It's something that has really helped me in my journey of learning drawing, especially drawing a lot at home, not in a studio environment. And it's an amazing exercise that you can use to essentially improve how you draw anything. So when you study a master like this, and in this specific case I will study the eyes, what is really great is that this person has already done a lot of hard work for you. They've looked at this real-life model with a lot of complex lighting, complex textures, a huge variety of colors that you find in nature and values, and the painter has simplified all he sees down, interpreted it, and created this painting as a result. And this is great for us because this is exactly what we obviously would like to do when we do a drawing of a person or a photograph we took, or we want to do a painting of someone we know. In the end of the day, we also have to go through this process. And a lot of that process is actually about abstract design. So if you're like me, maybe that comes as a surprise to hear that. At least it was a surprise to me in the beginning, that actually a lot of realistic art like this one is based on an abstract design. What that basically means is that the reason this painting is so appealing to us to look at, or any great painting for that matter, is how the painter has arranged these very basic elements underneath the painting, which is mainly the line, shapes, and then the values and edges as well. And how he or she arranges these things impacts how the design comes across. So now in this video specifically, I personally want to work on my understanding of how to design eyes in portraits. And now what I've done is I found three portraits of three of my favorite painters. So this one here is by a guy called Franz, Xavier Winterhalter. It's like a very tight style. Then I'm going to also study an eye by a guy called Raimundo de Madrazo, and lastly by John Singer Sargent, which most of you might know. And what you'll find is that what's kind of interesting is that all three of them have different approaches to designing the eyes. Obviously they make different artistic choices on their painting style, that's a part of it, and then also the poses are not always the same, and the medium isn't always the same. Through this exercise, what's amazing is that you get exposed to the design solutions of some of the most amazing designers in history. So in my opinion, if you only study anatomy right now, if you study eyes, or you only study these like kind of eye photos, that's great, but a really effective exercise for me at least has been doing these master copies of specific features, almost like anatomy studies. And I like to do them relatively quickly and just kind of get the design down. And that way you can actually get through quite a lot of them very quickly, kind of get exposed to a lot of design solutions for the eyes very quickly in a row. So that being said, let's get into it. Let's go. Alright, what you can see is that, when you focus on one little detail or feature, in this case the eye in this master painting, actually within just 10-20 minutes you can start to render quite a lot of it to where it starts to look more realistic. And what's fun about it is, for example, little things like the eyebrow. You can see how he has designed it here. If you would reduce the eyebrow to a line, and I did it here, it would be something like this. Then it kind of like cuts into it like that, and then tapers out like that. And then at the bottom part, to me that's a little design solution I could pick up from this, let's say eye design from this painting, because I find it makes the eyebrow actually look much more much more dynamic or much more visually interesting than if it would, would have been just this. So it's this little, this little design solution, this set of curved lines with this tiny little corner here. Essentially, like it's an S line, where here you add almost like this concave, convex little hook. Another thing you might notice, for example, in the second eye, that is literally just, it's just this curve for the eyebrow, and then the eye is actually just an abstraction of like the eyelashes, like this, and the eyelid here, something like that. So sometimes when you have a photo in front of you, where you have so much visual information, it can be hard to see that actually you could draw this eye with just a few lines. But when you do a master study, this master painter, he already did he already designed the eyes. And you pick up these little design solutions by doing these studies. So yeah, this was my little eye rendering of the Franz Xavier Winterhalter, who I think has a really cool way of painting. And now I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, now we're getting into the second master study of an eye, this time by the painter Raimundo de Madrazo. And I'm going to speed up the drawing now, and then we'll get into the design lesson in the next step of the video. So unfortunately the audio didn't save from the original video, so I'm doing a voiceover here. But essentially here you can see how I'm extracting some of the design lessons from drawing this eye. And a lot of the design is actually very much a combination of these circular S-curves flowing into each other from the eyebrow into the more upper eye, into the eyelashes. And you can see it actually very clearly in the design of the eyelashes. So the design of the eyelashes consists of an S-curve. You see it kind of on the right. And then from that S-curve, another S-curve kind of flows off. And then the connection between the two ends of those is again an S-curve. So it's these actually three S-curves very neatly connected that are the design of the eyelash. And that's, in my opinion, a perfect example of a design solution that I would have never picked up on my own unless I did a master study here. And that's something I can take away with me when I now paint a portrait or draw an eye from a photograph in my own drawing. I can remember these little design solutions and they will, they really help make your drawings flow much better. And here you can see I draw a bunch of S-curves flowing into each other to illustrate a little bit how it feels when you actually study this eye and get up really close. It might be hard to see here on the zoomed out photo, but when you get really close, you see that actually with the brush strokes, all of these little elements of the eye, the eyebrow, the upper eye, the eyelashes, etc., the lower part below the eye, they all flow into each other with these flowy S-curves. And yeah, that's really what the design is all about. Okay, now we're getting to the last master study in this video, and this time I purposefully chose a sketch by John Singer Sargent, not a painting, because I find it makes it even easier for you to see the abstract linear shape design he clearly also uses when he paints in his mind. And here you can see that the eye is literally just a set of curved lines, maybe two, maybe three or so, arranged in such a way, clearly communicates, this is an eye that's looking down, that's almost pretty shut. And I think, again, this is where you discover the genius of these master painters. It's very easy to think it's in the, in the very realistic rendering of the subject, which of course is impressive too. But actually what's below it is always an abstract design solution, an arrangement of lines, shapes, value, and edges that really makes the whole thing very clear to the viewer, and in the end holds together the painting. So yeah, this was the last little design lesson I could extract from these eye studies. It was especially helpful to study 3 different painters in a row, because you find each of them draws and designs a little bit differently, and each time you get a bit more exposed to what actually creates their unique style, their unique painting style, by studying the design. You can also see that I studied 3 different kind of anatomical eye positions. So one is an eye sideways, looking straight ahead in like a 3/4 profile. One was essentially almost basically shut, looking down, looking at something to the bottom left. The other one is in a different direction, basically in a profile. So by doing these studies, you can actually, almost replace your anatomy studies in a way, because you're studying an anatomical feature through these design focused master studies. And yeah, I'm gonna probably do more videos of this concept focused on the nose, the mouth, and other areas. So you'll see more of this concept. And yeah, please try it out yourself. I believe you'll really enjoy the exercise. It's especially a great exercise if you're studying alone at home. It teaches you elegant design solutions. So yeah, if you like this video, please hit subscribe, like the video. That really helps the channel. And yeah, looking forward to see you in the next video.